I have had to learn this more than once. Not because the learning didn't take the first time, it took in the partial way that lessons take when you have understood them intellectually without having understood them in the body. In the place where the understanding actually changes behavior rather than just informing it. The intellectual version of the lesson produces the nodding. The body version produces the change. And the body version requires a different quality of experience than the intellectual version, requires not the reading of the lesson, but the living of it. The specific, sometimes costly, always more instructive than the reading living of the thing you thought you had already learned. I kept encountering the loud thing and mistaking it for the true thing. Not because I was naive, because the loud thing is designed to be encountered first. It arises in the register that the attention is most available for. It occupies the foreground. It is confident in the way that confident things compel the attention. Not because confidence is the evidence of truth, but because the attention is calibrated to respond to the signal strength rather than the signal accuracy. The louder signal gets received first, gets processed as the primary information, gets accorded the authority that volume produces in the absence of the more deliberate assessment. The more deliberate assessment takes longer. Most people do not wait for it. I want to start with a specific observation and work toward the larger thing. Not because the larger thing is more important than the specific, because the specific is the only honest path to the larger, and the larger arrived at. Without the specific is just the available abstraction. The abstraction that sounds true and has the shape of truth and does not have the weight of it. The specific observation is this: the most important things that have happened in my life were not announced. It did not arrive in the register that significant things are expected to arrive in, did not produce the atmosphere of the significant moment. It did not come with the internal signal that says, this is the one, this is the moment. Pay this specific quality of attention that important things deserve. Because what is happening right now will be the thing you look back at from the distance of years as the thing that changed the direction. They came quietly, in the middle of something else, in the unremarkable hours, in the specific, completely ordinary conditions that the significant moment is supposed to be exempt from, arrived without announcing themselves as the arrival, without the fanfare that the internal calendar was waiting for before updating the record of what had been significant. I missed some of them. Not permanently. The missing was temporary, and the understanding came later, in the retrospective that is the only place from which the quiet thing's significance is fully visible. But I missed them in the real-time sense, was not present for them in the way that the significant moment deserves to be present for, was attending to the loud thing while the quiet thing was happening in the background, was waiting for the important thing to announce itself while the important thing was already underway in the register I had not been listening to. There is a quality to soft-spoken truth that I have been trying to describe accurately for a long time. Not soft as in weak, not soft as in uncertain, not soft as in the tentative offering of someone who does not believe their own position and is therefore offering it in the low confidence register. Those are the things the word suggests, and none of them are what I mean. Soft as in the specific, settled, entirely without urgency quality of a thing that does not need your agreement in order to be true. That is not making a bid for your recognition. That is not organized around being received in any particular way. That is just there, in the room, in the conversation, in the specific quiet take it or leave it way of the thing that has no performance in it. Because performance requires the need for a response, and this thing does not need a response. It is already what it is. Your receiving of it does not change it. Your missing it does not change it either. The soft-spoken truth continues to be true in your absence. In your distraction, in the period when you are attending to the loud thing and did not have the available attention for the quiet register, it waits. It is patient in the specific non-performing way of things that are not waiting for you, but that will be there when you are finally listening. This quality, the not needing of the response, the absence of the bid for recognition, is how I have learned to identify it. The thing that is not trying to convince me. I want to tell you about the loudest period of my life and what I learned in it. Not the dramatic loud, not the crisis loud. The ambient loud of a specific few years where everything in the visible structure of the life is producing maximum signal. The work, the building, the forward motion, the specific quality of momentum that announces itself to everyone in proximity as the evidence of a life going correctly. Everything was loud in the sense I described, confident, foregrounded, producing the impression of the primary information. I was attending to all of it. And underneath all of it, in the specific frequency I had not tuned to, several things were speaking that I was not hearing. My body was speaking. Not dramatically, not the loud symptom that forces the attention. The quiet symptom. The specific, low-level, nothing to point to quality of a body that is not in the right conditions and is registering that fact in the register the body uses when it is not yet at the stage of the loud signal. Tiredness that was not from the workload. A quality of depletion that arrived not at the end of the day, but at the beginning of it. The specific hollowness of someone who is doing the right things and producing the right results and has less in the interior each morning than they had the morning before. The body was speaking softly. I was not listening. A relationship was speaking, not the person in it. She was not being quiet about what was happening. She was speaking in the register she had available to her, and I was hearing her in the way that the attending primarily to the loud produces, the partial hearing. A hearing that processes the words without receiving the weight of them, that acknowledges the content without integrating the meaning, that hears the statement and misses the thing the statement was about. The thing she was saying was not the content of what she was saying. The thing she was saying was in the specific, soft, not going away way she kept returning to the same territory. The soft persistence of someone who knows that the thing they are pointing at is real and is waiting for the other person to finally turn and look at it. I kept not turning. Not from cruelty, from the specific, self-protective, entirely unconscious attention management of someone who was keeping the loud thing loud, specifically to avoid the frequency where the soft things were speaking. The loud thing was, in part, the management of the quiet. This is the thing I want to say carefully, because it is the most true and most uncomfortable part of what I have been working toward. Sometimes we keep things loud on purpose, not consciously. The mechanism is below the level of the conscious decision. It operates in the specific, efficient, entirely automated way of the self-protective system that has learned through the accumulated experience of what the quiet things have said in the past, to fill the quiet with enough volume to prevent the soft-spoken thing from reaching the level of audibility that would require response. The busyness is sometimes the noise machine. The constant forward motion is sometimes the thing between the self and the soft-spoken truth that the forward motion is moving away from. The productivity is sometimes the production of volume. Not always. The prolific life is not inherently the avoidant life. But sometimes, in the specific seasons when the quiet is particularly unwelcome, the doing is organized at least partially around the not hearing. I know this because I have been the person doing it, and I know the specific quality of the exhaustion it produces. The exhaustion of the noise machine is different from the exhaustion of genuine effort. Genuine effort depletes you in the specific clean way of something that has been used in the direction of its purpose. The noise machine exhaustion is different, dirtier, less locatable. The depletion without the specific source you can point to and say, that is what I gave. It is the depletion of the energy used to not hear, to maintain the volume that keeps the quiet thing below the audibility threshold. That exhaustion is the soft-spoken truth's most reliable announcement. When the exhaustion has no clean source, the source is usually the not hearing. Let me tell you about the first time I actually heard the soft thing, not the first time in the absolute sense. The first time I understood what I was hearing while I was hearing it rather than the retrospective. I had been through a period of sustained, loud, the specific, high output, everything is working as planned period that should have felt like the arrival and did not feel like the arrival. That looked from the outside like the thing I had been building toward and felt from the inside like nothing in particular, not bad. Not the dramatic dissonance of the wrong life. Just the specific flatness of the arrived thing that is not producing what the arriving was supposed to produce. That flatness is a soft-spoken truth. I understand that now. At the time, I processed it as a symptom to be managed, as the temporary low that follows the high of the achieved thing, as a normal deflation of the post-goal period that would resolve itself when the next goal had been identified and the momentum had been reestablished in a new direction. I started building the next thing, and in the middle of the building, in the specific quiet of a morning that had not yet assembled itself into its obligations, something happened that I had thought about many times since. I sat with the flatness instead of moving, not because I decided to, because the movement was not available that morning in the way it was usually available. The motivation that usually appeared with the morning had not appeared. I was sitting in its absence, and for the specific reason that there was nothing else to do, I stayed in the sitting, and the flatness spoke. Not in words. The soft-spoken truth rarely arrives in words, initially. It arrives in something more like clarity. The specific, not entirely welcome clarity of the scene that happens when you stop moving fast enough to see. The thing that was blurred by the speed becomes legible. Not all of it. One thing. One specific, soft, been there the whole time thing. The direction I was moving in was not mine. Not wrong. Not bad. Not the dramatically incorrect destination of someone who has made a fundamental error. Just not mine. Just a direction that the accumulated momentum of the previous choices had produced, rather than the direction that an honest consultation with the actual interior would have produced, the direction of the available path rather than the chosen one. The path that the walking had established, rather than the path that the compass was pointing at. The compass and the walking had diverged. The soft-spoken truth, I've been trying to say this for a long time. I had finally stopped moving long enough to hear it. I want to say something about the relationship between the soft truth and the people who speak it, because the soft-spoken truth is not only interior, it is also interpersonal. It is also the thing that certain specific people say to you, and that lands in the soft register rather than the loud one, and that requires the specific quality of attention that most conversations are not organized around producing. I have been close to several people who speak primarily in this register, not because they are quiet, not because they lack the capacity for the loud, because they have understood something about the relationship between volume and truth that most people never examine. They have understood that the loud register is the register of the person who needs to be heard, who is not confident that the thing they are saying will be received and is therefore amplifying it, who is performing the importance of what they are saying through the volume and the confidence and the foregrounding. The person who does not need to be heard speaks differently, not because they are indifferent to reception, because they have a different relationship with the truth of what they are saying. They are not amplifying it, they are just offering it in the available register, without the performance of its importance, trusting that the thing which is true will find its own way into the listener if the listener is paying the right kind of attention. If the listener is not paying the right kind of attention, if the listener is attended to the loud register, and this thing is arriving in the soft one, it will pass unheard, and the person speaking it will not repeat it at higher volume. They will let it pass. This is the specific risk of the soft-spoken truth in its interpersonal form. It does not insist. It offers once, or offers in the quiet, persistent, not escalating way of something that continues to be available without requiring acknowledgement. And if you are not listening in the right register, you will miss it, and the person offering it will understand that the missing was the answer and will, in time, stop offering. The stopping of the offering is the loudest thing they ever do, and by then it is too late for the listening. I have missed things I cannot get back. The honest accounting requires this sentence. It requires it without the management of the full context that would make the missing understandable. The context is real. I was in the loud period. The attention was where the attention was. The soft register was not available to me in the specific season when certain soft-spoken things were being offered. All of that's true, and none of it changes the fact of the missing. There is a specific person who offered something in the soft register for longer than I deserved the offering. The thing they were offering was the honest version of what I needed to hear, not the comfortable version, not the version organized around my continued comfort in the direction I was moving. The version that would have required me to stop moving and consult the compass and find the divergence between the walking and the pointing. The version that would have cost me something in the short term and given me something more important in the longer term. They offered it softly because they understood that I could not receive it loudly. The loud version would have produced the defense, would have triggered the specific, immediate, entirely automatic resistance of someone who is being confronted with the unwelcome thing rather than being given the space to arrive at it. They knew this about me, for speaking into the shape of who I was in a way that required the soft approach. I did not receive it. Not because I was defended against the soft, because I was not listening in the soft register at all. The noise machine was running, the loud thing was loud, the soft offering passed below the threshold, they stopped offering. I understood later, much later, what I understand now, the thing that the years have produced in the retrospective, is that the stopping was the answer I had given, not consciously. Through the consistent choice of the loud over the soft. Through the sustained not listening that communicated more clearly than any direct statement could have, that the soft offering was not being received. The soft truth does not compete with the loud thing. When the loud thing is chosen consistently enough, the soft truth accepts the answer. What I have learned to do, and I am still learning it, it is not finished. The lesson requires the relearning at each new level of volume is to deliberately enter the soft register, not when the loud thing has gone quiet, not in the passive sense of arriving at the soft truth by default when the noise machine has run out of fuel. In the active sense, the deliberate turning of the attention toward the register where the soft things are speaking before the noise machine creates the need for them to speak. The practice is simple in description and specific in execution. The practice is to stop before the stopping is required, not for long. Not the sustained retreat from the world that the romantic version of this suggests. For the specific, brief, genuinely unglamorous duration of a person who has paused the doing and is sitting in the pause without immediately filling the pause with the next thing. 3 minutes. 5. The specific, uncomfortable, nothing is happening quality of the pause that produces the fidgeting in the person who is not used to the absence of input. In the pause, the soft things speak. Not always. Not immediately. Not with the reliability of the switched-on process. In the irregular, unpredictable, completely on their own schedule way of things that have been waiting for the quiet and that arrive when the quiet is genuinely present, rather than just the gap between louder things. The arrival is not dramatic. It is a quality of knowing rather than a content. The specific, located, now I can feel it quality of someone who has stopped moving fast enough to feel what was underneath the movement. Sometimes a direction, sometimes an absence, the soft understanding that something is not there that was assumed to be there, sometimes a presence, the equally soft understanding that something is there that had not been noticed. There and real and been there the whole time. The whole time miss is always a little uncomfortable. How long has this been here? The answer is always longer than you would prefer. The soft-spoken truth about the life I am living now arrived about 8 months ago. I am not going to say it in the full form here. Some things belong to the private accounting rather than the public one. But I will say the shape of it. It said you have been more loyal to the version of yourself you built in the loud years than to the version the quiet years have been building. Not an accusation. A clarity. The specific, flat, non-dramatic clarity of the soft register. Just the thing, said plainly, available for receiving or for missing. Offered without insistence. In the register that required genuine attention to catch. I was in the pause. I caught it. What it is requiring of me is the second part of this, the response to the soft truth. Not the thinking about the response, the actual one. What I do when the compass and the walking have diverged and the soft thing has finally been heard. What that costs. What it gives back. And why the herein, even this late, even after the long period of the noise machine, is still not too late. That is where the second part begins. Not with the arrival. With what happens after. What you do when the soft thing has spoken and you have finally, genuinely, without the management, heard it. Not permanently. Not the dramatic departure from the direction. Just 3 weeks of the deliberate not adding more. Of sitting in what was already there and letting the soft thing finish, saying what it had started. The 3 weeks were uncomfortable in the specific way of someone who has organized their sense of self around the forward motion and has temporarily removed the motion. The self does not know what to do with the stillness, reaches for the next thing reflexively, finds the next thing not available. Sits back down. I sat back down. Every time, what the soft truth was saying, the full version, the version that required the 3 weeks to see properly, was not about the direction. I had heard it initially as the direction, as the compass and walking divergence I described. That was the surface of it. The underneath was about loyalty. I had been loyal to the loud version of myself, in the specific, unconscious, entirely unexamined way of someone who is identified so thoroughly with a particular way of being in the world that the identification has become the self. The loud version, the building, the forward motion, the output, had stopped being the thing I did and had become the thing I was. And the thing I was could not be questioned, without the questioning feeling like an attack on the self rather than an honest examination of a chosen mode. The soft truth was not attacking the self. It was asking whether the mode was still chosen, or whether the mode had chosen me. The answer was that the mode had chosen me. Somewhere in the loud years, the choosing had reversed direction. I was no longer operating from the inside out, selecting the mode that fit the actual interior and moving in it. I was operating from the outside in. The mode had become the container, and I had been arranging the interior to fit it rather than the other way. The 3 weeks showed me the original shape, The shape before the container, the actual interior without the arrangement. Smaller in some places than the mode suggested, larger in others. Different in the specific way of the thing that has been compressed to fit and that expands quietly and without drama when the compression is removed. The expansion was the soft truth finishing its sentence. I did not change everything. The soft truth does not require the everything. It requires the one thing. The specific, located, now I know where it is thing that the 3 weeks identified. I changed that one thing, quietly, without announcement. In the specific, unhurried, nobody is watching way that the soft things always resolve. The loud years are not over. But they are no longer the noise machine. The compass and the walking are closer now, not aligned perfectly, closer. The soft thing said that was enough for now. I believed it. For the first time in a long time, I simply believed the quiet.